Hi everyone, my name is Cameron.
I'm Evan.
Glad you figured it out. This is the third Saturday in October podcast. For today's segment, we're just going to dive through general thoughts and feedback from last week. So the first thing to discuss is our general records, moneyline picks. I went 11 and 3 in my picks last week for rivalry week. My three losses, I think the entire country had it. Michigan beating Ohio State. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Boise State, I really thought it was your time. Oregon State, you did not play up to the caliber I thought you would, and it's the loss. And then last but not least, I actually took uh, Iowa State I took Kansas State last week. Bad pick. Iowa State's now in the conference title. So, Evan, over to you.
Yeah, I also went 11-3, but I think mine were a little more straightforward because, like you said, everybody picked Ohio State to win that game. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Then I also lost on who was that? Clemson at or South Carolina at Clemson. I don't know, a little bit of a toss up. South Carolina's playing out of their minds. I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit more too. And then last was Miami at Syracuse. That was also just stupid.
It's almost like I called it. I don't know if you captured that those last two picks we just completely disagreed on. I was just right.
There's a first time for everything. Record's still the same. In fact, I think I'm still up in all the records right now. So I'll take what I got.
In
So
general, I think we're
let's,
both in a pretty good place.
yeah, I know. Let's go ahead and move on to actual just thoughts from last week because rivalry week really uh, lived up to its name. First of all, I don't know if I was watching a bunch of WWE matches or football because the brawls were just insane, especially with the flag planting. Let's be honest, Baker Mayfield started that a few years ago. I think it's hilarious. Does it belong in college football? Maybe not. But to start all out brawls over a flag being planted on your field 10 minutes after the game is over, it's just a little much. I don't know if you need 100 people just going at it on the field.
In this scenario specifically for Michigan and Ohio State, I read and saw a lot of different feedback on that exact topic and bringing those flags out, planting them in the middle of the field. I really don't have an issue. Yes, I personally do think it is a bit rude and maybe a
Oh
little bit
yeah,
unsportsmanlike. But if you don't want them to plant it in the middle of the field, maybe you win the game. Uh,
yeah. I don't know. Also, and this is going to kind of lead into the second part of this, just about Ryan Day. Did you hear him afterwards? I mean, he didn't even criticize his team for fighting at all. You straight up got embarrassed by Michigan, who's a really, really bad Michigan team.
it's
And
one thing to lose to Michigan; it's another one to lose to this style. Not even the style. This Michigan
yeah,
team.
awful, awful. And all right, let's just go in on Ryan Day. And I want to open it up with, well, first, he's never beaten Michigan. Okay. This was his best
That
shot.
is not true. That
I'm
is not
sorry.
true.
As head coach of Ohio State, he's never beaten Michigan,
That is
which,
also not true. He is 1-4. He was the head coach in 2019. Urban Meyer resigned in 18.
all right, whatever. Okay. He's never started a season as head coach where he has beaten Michigan. Fair? You go with that?
No, because he was still the head coach in 19.
He
Urban
never
Meyer
he never
retired.
start he never started. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It didn't he didn't start the season as head coach. All that to say, that is the game that you got to win if you're an Ohio State head coach. He can't do it. This was his best chance to do it. It was at home. This is the best Ohio State team I've seen in a long time. The question that I've got for you is if he doesn't make the championship after this, I'm not saying he has to win, but if he doesn't make the championship with a $20 million roster, coming off a great season, can't beat Michigan for the last however many years, 4 years, is he head coach going forward?
Going into yesterday, or sorry, on Saturday, we're recording this on Monday. Going into that, I said with the loss to Oregon, assuming a win over Michigan, and we both said it would be an emphatic win. I thought that he needed to make the national title game regardless. I personally feel now, you mentioned it, $20 million roster, best in the sport. The only one that can kind of hold up to it is Texas. Um, no.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win the national title, there are plenty of other coaches that would have
Mhm.
great opportunity to put this. And I want to bring one thing up because I've said this since Ryan Day came on as the head coach at Ohio State. When you are handed the keys to a Ferrari, it is easy to drive fast. When Urban Meyer retired, he received the best, most talented team in the country at that time. He is an excellent recruiter, but he has never won the big game. I do not care what anyone says. They lost to
Yep.
Georgia 3 years ago.
Yep.
Sorry, it's a loss. Loss is a loss. He has never proven that he can win the big game. There are plenty of other coaches out there that can. I also want to acknowledge Kalen DeBoer is in his first year at Alabama. He also has lost a couple of games this year that he shouldn't have lost. He did beat Georgia. That was a huge win. But again, that's year one. We're in year five now of Ryan Day. If he
Yeah.
doesn't win, he's done.
Yeah. I honestly, even if he makes the national championship game, I don't know if he does it. You're not going to fire your national champion coach, but if he doesn't win that game, I think he's got to be out after this year. There's enough people calling for his head.
Agreed.
Yeah. What you
So
got?
I want to look at a slightly more positive topic. Notre Dame, really clapping
Yeah.
for you. I got to tell you, the win over USC this weekend, I think we both had it circled. A lot of the country had it circled. That was
Mhm.
expected to be, score wise, it was a 14-point game. They let up maybe a couple more touchdowns than they should have, but they won. I think Notre Dame is a very legitimate team. I'm excited to see what they can do in the playoff, and really just want to give them a moment of actually saying, outside of that one loss against Northern Illinois, what a great season they've really had.
Yeah. Hats off to Notre Dame. Did you watch that game?
I did not.
So I didn't watch the whole game, but I did watch bits and pieces. I think they could have won by at least another 30 points. To be honest, they let off the gas at the end. I think that's why USC kind of it looked a little bit closer than it was. It was not a close game. Notre Dame, they other than the one slip up, they've been hot this whole season, and I don't know. Well, we're gonna talk about the playoff predictions kind of later in the week in a different episode, but they're gonna go far. Hats off to them. Yeah, like you said.
Over to you. What do you have next on the list?
Oh, I mean, next on my list, actually, let's go back to you. I'm good. You kind of hit a couple of my nails there.
Yeah. So the next one I really wanted to cover is Heisman predictions and
Okay.
where the odds currently sit. I believe there's currently five guys, at least in the odds that I was looking at. Somehow Jalen Milroe still finds his name in there. As an Alabama fan, I think that is a terrible. Whatever
Yeah.
you're doing, if you are gambling, we're not giving you advice, but it's a really, really bad bet. I
Don't
would
bet
not put.
on Milroe. Do not bet on Milroe.
In my opinion, there are really two players. You could mention a third that I think you could make an argument for. The two that I think are at the top are Ashton Genty and Travis Hunter. The entire season, Evan, both you and I have said spectacular things about both players, but we've really both been hyping up on Ashton Genty.
Now, hold on.
Fantastic season. Oh, go ahead.
Before we start in on the top two, who's your third?
Shador Sanders.
Okay. I thought you were going to come way out of left field with just somebody wild like I don't know South Carolina's quarterback because their coach is calling for him to be in the Heisman race. But
Lenore Sellers is
yeah,
fantastic, but he's not there yet. I think,
no, he's not there. No,
yeah.
yeah, good.
Uh,
All right, just making
Shador
sure.
is my number three.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes
that
sense.
said, I think it's Ashton Genty and Travis Hunter. We've talked up Ashton Genty a lot this season. He's had an excellent season, but I have to say, in Colorado's final game last week, I know they're not playing for Big 12 championship. That's a bit of a disappointment, if I'm being honest. three touchdowns, over 100 yards through the air,
and a
actually
pick.
caught his last touchdown pass in Colorado Stadium and got an interception in a game again. I think he has
Yeah,
8 picks this season or something on top of
and
however many touchdowns.
for people that don't know, Travis Hunter plays both sides. He's while yeah, there's two players really in the race. It's three different positions. I mean, he is a top 10 receiver in the league and top five defensive back, right? I
Yes.
mean, that's yes, there are technically two people in the race. I think it's got to be Travis. I know we're not really doing picks, but the guy deserves it, even though they're probably or not even probably they're not going to be in the playoffs, right? And I don't know that we've seen a Heisman winner not be in the playoffs in a ever, maybe.
Lamar Jackson, I think, would have been the last one.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's incredible to see what he's done. I don't know what he's going to get drafted at in the NFL. He's going to go really high, and he's gonna be an incredible player there.
I hope to see him holding that trophy on the stage. I mean, truly, what an athlete.
Yeah, I 100%. So, I mean, anything else on the Heisman folks? And okay, yes, we should probably mention really quick. Ashton Genty, incredible running back. He's also going to do an amazing job in the NFL whenever he gets there. I don't even know what year he is, but
He'll go
he's
after this
yeah, he's
season. I
going
believe
after
he's
this
a
season.
junior.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's having an incredible season, breaking all kinds of records, but he's not having the season Travis is.
I think he is having the season that Travis is. The difference is Travis plays both ways. I mean,
It's not as
Travis is
impressive.
averaging like
Yeah,
110 plays a game
the stamina
versus
that guy has is incredible, and it makes no
it,
sense.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it really truly is. So,
Um,
but yeah, why don't we go ahead and get to our last section here, which is really just going to be kind of about the best part about college football going forward. Now that we're kind of wrapping up the regular season, we've got obviously championship week left and then the playoffs, but let's look forward to next year. Go ahead.
oh, I think there's three teams that really stick out. Two of them we mentioned on last week's uh, podcast. Those were South Carolina and Florida. Florida, it was a hideous game, and I did watch that one over Florida State. I don't know that I've seen an uglier win that was more lopsided. I mean, picks, turnovers, fumble. It was just an
It's
ugly game, but they
messy.
won. They
Yep.
went 7-5 this season. They had a gauntlet of a run. Great
Makes
season.
no sense. Makes no
No,
sense how they went into the season. Not only won enough to get bowl eligible, but 7 games. I can't believe they won more than 4. Like that was like
we
my top going into this season.
little did we know that was just Florida State,
Yeah, well, obviously
and
now
they
it's a
only got to
guaranteed win.
two.
Yeah, but
The next
yeah,
one was South Carolina, though.
South Carolina. All right, I just want to say this real quick. Their coach annoys the heck out of me. I do not like him at all. The way he talks is it's whatever. South Carolina, the last month though, top 12 team for sure. Ever since they got their QB back, he didn't even play like the first half of the season. Right. That's why they were kind of really, really hit and miss. He had an injury for I think it was like 3 games. A couple of those he was completely out for. Ever since then, lights out. They're playing great. South Carolina is a really cool field to go to if you've never been there. It's a really cool environment. Next year, I think there's going to be a lot of night games there, and they're probably going to start the season ranked pretty high.
I would tend to agree with that. The last team I want to talk about had an amazing season. I hope that they continue on that trajectory. And they also had the most disappointing loss this past weekend. Georgia Tech. You have wins over Florida State, who we now understand is a bad team, but to start the season, they were number 10.
Mm-hmm.
You beat Miami. You put on great performances in almost every game that you played this year. And you had, I think, 5 top 10 matchups. You also had one with Notre Dame. But to take Georgia to eight
Eight
overtimes.
overtimes. Eight over. That's absurd.
It was insane.
At that
Uh,
point, just rock, paper, scissors. Whoever wins, wins. Yeah, that was crazy. Good on them. I think if they just had maybe a little bit more depth, they'd probably take that game. But after eight overtimes, you're going up against Georgia, who is just great at all levels. It was just a waiting game for Georgia.
or if we had a legitimate targeting call on fourth, third and one or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Well,
Yeah, that
we can't get into that.
maybe we shouldn't talk about officiating.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a future episode because I think there
That's
was a
definitely a later episode.
lot of bad officiating this whole year, and just kind of agree with you about Tech. They look awesome going forward next year. I think they could probably be in that ACC championship game, especially after this year. I don't really see a team that is like amazing in that division or in that conference. The last team, though, that you did not mention, Army. Army's 10-1, and obviously they've got their last game against Navy coming up in a few weeks. They play after everybody else, but Army's not a great team historically. They're really not. This year, number one in rushing yards, top five in defense. They are no joke. If they can keep that going, if they can recruit a little bit better, and you got to think about how limited that recruiting pool is, because you need to recruit people that are not trying to go necessarily to the NFL. They're trying to go get their degree, serve their country as an officer, and that's what they do, right?
You're right.
They're at a
Their
military
priority is not
academy.
football.
Yeah. So you're already limited in your recruiting pool. What they've done this year, and if they can keep it going the next couple of years, I mean, hats off to those guys. They deserve every bit of credit.
Agreed.
Like,
Bryson Daly
yeah,
has played out of his mind the entire season too.
he has. Yeah, I know it has been a fun year. I'm sad that we're already out of the regular season because there's so many games that could have gone the opposite way, and this could have been a very straightforward rest of the season and playoff picture, but chaos,
As you'll find out
absolute
later this
chaos.
week with our playoffs,
Yep.
it's a very broken year.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Was that all you got?
That's all I have.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody watching. Like we said, we'll be back with a couple other episodes later this week with our playoff predictions, and that'll be after our championship predictions for each of the big conference games. So, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.